Welcome to Battle Streams in Middle-earth, and in this video I'm going to tell you about the coolest project I haven't made and might never make. Huh? In you come.
One ring to rule them all, one ring to frighten them, one ring to break them all, and into the darkness bind them.
So yes, welcome one and all to Battle Streams in Middle-earth, and welcome to Damian's hobby vlog number 55. If you're new here to the channel, this is of course Battle Streams in Middle-earth. It's the channel that we set up to help the hobbyists of the world clear your backlog. And we try and do that primarily in a couple of ways. The first of those is that every few weeks we have a live stream. We have a really cool live stream where we go through an issue of DXD's Battle Games in Middle-earth. We hang out as a global community and we paint the models that came with it together. Not because we need them for armies, but because it's fun to paint and help clear that backlog just for the joy of the hobby. And the other way I try and kind of monitor my own backlog is just by tracking it through these hobby vlogs of what I'm doing throughout the year, basically what I'm painting, and trying to keep myself honest and paint more than I buy, essentially. So if that's the sort of thing that sounds interesting to you, then hit the subscribe button, check out our live tabs, you'll see whenever our next one is coming up, and yeah, join in the community. It's super cool. So, to this vlog, number 55, I believe this will be called something like The Road to Throne of Skulls Prologue, or Throne of Skulls Season Prologue, something like that. This is a bit different. The regular hobbyist amongst you will know that everything I do in the hobby year builds up to Throne of Skulls. It's my favourite event of the year. And I personally am about to start my Throne of Skulls journey on the vlogs. Okay, we're about to jump into that. But before I got stuck into 2025 content, I've had this kind of this albatross around my neck, this kind of weighing me down, this other thing that I wanted to talk about for a while. And so I've decided to cover that in this video. And so this isn't about this year's Throne of Skulls project, but it's related to this year's Throne of Skulls project. And I think it'll hopefully be a kind of cool project that that you'll like. And it's kind of about a project that I haven't made and I might never make. And what's really weird is I've done one of these videos before. I did a video on the GBHL channel when I was still putting my content over there, and that video was called I believe it's how GBHL Damian didn't make a display board for the Middle-earth Grand Tournament. This was back in April 2021 I put this work, and it was basically like I filmed a load of content for a project, and then it didn't happen, so I abandoned it, but I decided to turn it into a video, and it was pretty popular. People were like, this is cool. And then bizarrely, in a real weird twist of fate, the way these cyclical things happen, that project actually did end up being turned into my 2023 Throne of Skulls Rise of Iron project. So everything's cyclical. So however, this might have a kind of doom and gloom feeling to it, this video, but I also, it's never quite the end here on BSIME. So, yeah, let's get stuck in. It's going to be a chatty one. There's no hobby to show you really, but there might be some cool little teasers of projects that may have been at some point. But I suggest you grab a cup of tea, get your paintbrushes out, and start getting ready for Throne of Skulls season here on Battle Streams in Middle-earth. So, for me, as you know, everything builds up to Throne of Skulls, and I spend an awful lot of time kind of planning for Throne of Skulls, and as a result of that I plan for loads of projects long in advance, and then some of them get abandoned. And when I talk about Throne of Skulls, that's a name that's been used as a Middle-earth tournament for nearly 15 years now or so, but this format, this set of rules, launched in 2018. That's the time they changed the rule set to what it is now, the kind of 50% gaming, 25% army, 25% favourite games. That was first introduced in 2018, and that's the same time that my desire to go all out for it changed. That's when I launched this slightly crazy quest I've been on in 2018 when I did my Army of the Dead, and it was linked to a series of articles that I wrote for Warcom, but it was very much in the kind of, well, let's make a cool army for the event, and let's make a board, and let's go in fancy dress, and it went ridiculously well, and it was just super fun. And then that became that was like, okay, I love this event. I love this event with this scoring system, and it's absolutely brilliant. And then since then, I have had since that first year. So when you start thinking about what's going to come next, since December 2019, I've had 3 projects that have been decided, written, planned, and then abandoned for future years. And they've always been lurking. If you followed these vlogs, there's always been mention of these other projects that, I was going to do this and this got abandoned. And I'm tidying that up fully today. So the first of these 3 abandoned projects was my Erebor Dale project. Now that was planned originally for December 2020. That was the plan. So it was after, I was going to do it after I did the Thorns company. And I ended up doing it in 2022. It got delayed because of COVID, but I came back and bought it in 2022. So that was one project. Dale and Erebor got delayed by 2 years. Then the other one, and the really, really big one, was Bilbo's birthday party. Now, if you followed the channel over the last year, you would have seen this. This was also planned for 2022. I can't remember which way round it was, whether that one benched Erebor or Erebor benched the birthday party. I can't remember what order that happened in. It was originally planned for 2020, and then it finally came to fruition in December 2025 in glorious style, finally achieving my goal of winning Best Army and managing to win the event again and get my sporting stuff. It was absolutely amazing. So I got that one done. So that's 2 of them, but a 3rd project was planned for Throne of Skulls, and as of yet that's not been completed. So whenever you've heard me talk about there's this plan, or I've abandoned that, there was only ever 3, and 2 of them I have done and 1 of them I haven't, and I'm going to address that 3rd one in this video, and that is the Beornings. So in this vlog I'm going to talk about what my plans were, where they came from, and where they currently are, and maybe what the future holds for my Beornings and their plans for Throne of Skulls. Spoilers, it's not good. So, first things first, I want to take you back to the 19th November 2022 and my hobby vlog number 16. And this is where I specifically mention this project, without, mentioning it, of course, and also to discuss how it fitted into my Throne of Skulls history over the past 7 years and kind of why it was abandoned. So sit back and let's go back in time. And what's I think quite interesting about this is the army list that I'm taking. The idea for this Throne of Skulls project came about in December 2019. I can show you the files that I started making stuff for this on, I think it was the 11th of December 2019. It was basically as soon as I got back from Throne of Skulls in 2019, which is the year I went with my bag end as Bilbo. As soon as I got back from Throne of Skulls, I was super excited about Throne of Skulls, and so I came up with this idea, and I wrote the army list. And so I'll come back to the army list in a minute, but the army list was written in December, and so it's been sitting there on my computer for 3 years. But then when 2020 came around, like early 2020, I benched the idea. So almost immediately, about a month later, I went, no, I don't want to do this, I'm going to do this. And then spent a load of money on that project. And of course, Throne of Skulls 2020 didn't happen because of COVID. And then by the time 2021 came around, and there was a Throne of Skulls at the end of the year, as it got to the project, as it got to nearer it, I think it was only announced really close up to the project, so we didn't know if there was going to be an event, and that was it. It was announced about 2 months before, and so then I don't have the time to do the project that I had benched the Erebor and Dale project for. What have I got time to do? And I went with the Ents. So that's where there's a big long hobby vlog from this time last year talking about me getting my Ents ready, and there they are. Oh, I say there they are. They're just above the shop. Sorry, there's Dwaradale Throne of Skulls 2018. So I couldn't do that project, and I did the Ents instead. So then I was going to do that project in 2022, and then I benched that project, which was the one that benched the Erebor and Dale, for a different project, both of which were going to take about 4 months. That was what I was slightly hinting towards at the start of the year. And then, as my hobby plans progressed this year, I realised that I was going to have about 2 months to do this project. And so I couldn't do either the project that benched the Erebor and Dale stuff in 2020, or the project that benched that one in 2022. And so I was like, well, what else can I do? I've only got about 2 months to do this. And so I came back to this Erebor and Dale thing. I dug out what I'd planned for this back in 2019, and because I've already painted the Army of Thor, or a lot of it, I was like, yes, that I could do. So yeah, the other thing that means is, if you're following along, yes, I do indeed have all the models and all the scenery and bits for 2 separate Throne of Skulls projects in the cupboard, waiting. So fingers crossed I get a bit more organised next year, and maybe one of those, maybe those are my projects for 2023 and 2024, but who knows what other exciting things will come along. So in early 2022, I abandoned plans to take Bilbo's birthday party to Throne of Skulls, and instead I decided to take the Beornings, figuring that project was only going to take about 4 months, and buying loads of stuff that I needed for it. And then, as it turned out, towards the end of the year, I didn't have the time to do it. I didn't have the time, I didn't have the 4 months basically, and so I ended up doing the Erebor project instead. And so they got benched. That was the Beornings. That was their time. They were going to be done that year. I didn't think I could fit them in all the Hobbit required, and they ended up doing something smaller instead, where the army was mainly already painted. And then, for the past 4 years, my Beornings have waited, hoping their time would come, and watching Dale and Erebor, the Riders of Eomer, Bilbo's birthday party, all get completed before them. And so, as Throne of Skulls 2025 rolls around, is it finally the time of the Beornings? No, and I'm starting to think it might not ever be. So yeah, sadly for the Beornings, I've kind of come to the realisation that they're not going to get done for Throne of Skulls anytime soon, and maybe not ever. And so what I thought it would be good to do, because I do feel like I've got this kind of slightly unfinished business with them, I wanted to address them in a video and kind of sign them off and say farewell, and really neaten up my my Throne of Skulls planned project backlog, as it were, and kind of bid a fond farewell to the project before we move on. So first things first, I love Beorn. I love everything to do with it. Anyone who's watched the channel or anything I've been on will know that possibly my favourite sequence in any of the books is basically Mirkwood. I love everything from coming out of the Misty Mountains all the way through Mirkwood to Lake Town, basically. I really like the stuff in Desolation of Smaug. I've never been convinced it hangs together as a film, but the beats, the Beorn, the river, the spiders, the elves, the barrels, love all of that. And Beorn is just, I've always loved him. I picked him up really, really early. I think I got him on release day at the original guy, and then I was one of those people there in 2013 who was waiting for the bear for about 6 months. We had the dude for ages, and we had to wait for ages. We had to wait for months to get the bear. And I love him, and I like what the film did with him. And he's always been there as a kind of, he's cool and he's thematic. And he was also, in the last edition, he was always considered a bit rubbish. So I was always like, well, I'd love to get him into a thematic list. And so the earliest doc I've got about this project is in January 2022. And the plan was to drop him into a Thorin's Company list. And I'm going way back here, but I think in the old edition, Beorn and Thorin's Company were yellow alliance, so you could take them to something like Throne of Skulls. And you can see here, hopefully coming up on the screen, how I was trying to make space for him in Thorin's Company. I think in the old edition, Thorin's Company were 1,000 points, and you needed to save 200 points basically to fit Beorn into that army. And so I had a few ideas of which dwarfs would go, which ones were the least thematic, or the ones that I liked the least, or quite what we, how that would work. And kind of came up with that plan. I was like, okay, so this is cool. So what I'll do is I'll take Thorin's Company and Beorn. And I'd had a lot of fun taking Thorin's Company to Throne of Skulls before. I'd managed to win with Thorin's Company. And I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. I'll love that. And so once that army list idea was together, I decided, it was like, okay, well, what's the board? What's the display board? And it didn't take long to come up with the idea of setting it in Beorn's house. And so I was like, yeah, that's cool. And I've always said that I try and do things that I haven't seen often, just scenes, and there's not many of those, of course, but if you look at the kind of things I've built over the years, like inside the Dwimmerberg, the hill inside Erebor, the Bilbo's birthday party, they don't tend to be the scenes that you see a lot of on display boards. That's always what I'm trying to do. I'm not saying it's hugely original, completely unique, but I always try and build things that aren't that common. And certainly at the time I was like, well, we haven't seen Beorn's house. Like, I don't remember anyone making Beorn's house, certainly not inside it. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we built a display board that was kind of half of Beorn's house cut away and it was all set inside it, like have that scene where he was chatting to him. And I kind of pictured there might be a garden bit at the end where I put the bears, and then the man version would be, sorry, the bear, and then the man version would be inside. And so what I started doing is kind of deep diving into all the reference images that I could find. Like, I spent ages watching the film and screen grabbing loads of the shots of the outside of his house and the inside of his house, and sort of trying to work out what shape it was, what needed to be in it, what furniture was in it, what materials it was built out of, and everything else. Hopefully some of those are coming up on the screen now, just some of the shots that I grabbed. And it was a really fun exercise, and I ended up finding loads of cool stuff and loads of interesting tidbits that I thought would be a lot of fun to kind of recreate in miniature form. And at the time I was very much dialed into Tom Aurelian. I'd just bought all the I'd done bag end full of Tom Aurelian scenery the year before, I guess, or 2 years before. I can't remember when I would have bought that. And I think by this point I'd already bought the scenery for Bilbo's birthday party. So I had this great supplier of kind of, dungeon scale furniture, and there was this vast array of stuff on his website that I was like, oh, we could dig into that. So I was very, very excited about it, and it was very much kind of, I thought this would be cool. And perhaps the most useful thing I found was a great kind of top-down picture of Beorn's house in the big chunky Middle-earth book. And that gave a really clear and accurate depiction of how the house looked to help with it being recreated. So that was really handy, having that map. And that gave me a really good vision of trying to kind of put these things together, which rooms would be together. And I wasn't always going to be slavishly copying. It didn't have to be 100% accurate. My version of Bag End isn't actually accurate to the Bag End footprint. It's just got the three most iconic rooms kind of next to each other, effectively. And so I was all right for cheating it, but it was really handy to use this to get an idea of how it should look. Now, as I started looking into it, you saw that the main part of the house was probably quite unsurprisingly built out of wooden walls. And as luck would have it, at the time, the incredible Rohan scenery kits had only just come out. And so I was like, well, that's brilliant. That ticks a giant box for me. This will be fun to get, fun to experiment with this kit, and it'll be using the GW stuff, which is always a big tick for Throne of Skulls. And after doing some kind of rough working, I figured out I'd need about 4 Rohan houses kits to complete it. And so over Christmas 2021, I split one of the Rohan Stronghold kits with one of our fellow BSIMers, Warwick Griggs. Obviously for a super secret reason. I just needed a pile of Rohan scenery. And so we split that. I think he got all the Palisades, he got 2 of the houses or something. I can't remember quite how it worked out. Maybe I ended up paying a bit more because the kit was 6 houses and 2 sets of Palisades, and I ended up with 4 houses. I can't remember what we did, but I split it with Warwick, and I had this giant pile of floor plans. Giant pile of sprues. With which I could play with. So all these kind of house sprues, and I was like, oh, that's super cool. And I even started clipping a few bits off. So in this bag, this kind of like 4-year-old bag, it's got a few kind of roof panels and a few wall panels chopped off. And I started kind of cutting these bits off to get some idea and test out sizes. And what I also did was, I'm not sure how well this will show up, but I drew out my floor plan. This probably looks like a blank sheet of paper that could be anything. But I'm not going to scan it, but hopefully at some point can we start to see some pencil lines drawn in on that? There, that looks like it's pretty good contrast to me. But I drew out this floor plan. Come back to me, light. Come on, light. There we go. That's the last time I'm holding this up. But I drew out this, and this is basically the full size floor plan. So this was real size with the real pieces. And running along the top of this, I've got, again, you probably won't see it, but it says roof 1, roof 2, roof 3, roof 4. And what that means is it was going to take 4 roof panels to be the kind of the width of the board I needed. And this, you know, this was, I remember putting the models on here. This fits, you know, whatever it is, 10 dwarfs and Beorn or whatever it would have been. And you can see on here that we've got like door. So, you know, there were 2 separate doors I think I was going to have to build into it. And I remember the roofs were going to be a big issue, because the whole thing is, I should have measured it really, but it's probably about 18 inches long, something like that, maybe a bit longer. And by the time I worked out that, if you imagine this is the base, this is the floor, so then the wall's going to come up here, and then the Rohan roof kit, this is the worst demo ever, is going to need to slant out here. And I think I worked out, it's either going to be 3 or 4. Can you see that? Like 1, 2, 3 pieces. So it was either going to be like 12 roof pieces needed, or I think it was 16. I think I worked out I needed 16 roof pieces, and I think I only had 8. If that makes sense. Like I had 4 Rohan houses, and so they probably come with 2 of these each. And obviously you could buy more Rohan houses, but these were just for the roof pieces. I'm like, that is a terrible waste of money. So I remember the roof was already a big issue, and I'd already decided that what I'd probably do is just use these pieces that I had along the edges where they joined the plastic walls, and then in the middle I'd have to use some sort of a sheet of hardboard or a sheet of foam board or something, and then texture it to match the rest to make it work. So that was the plan. So you can see I'd gone into a fair bit of detail. So after studying quite a lot of these reference images, as well as knowing that I could use the Rohan houses to build the walls up, I also saw that the house it was wooden walls, and it was on a stone base. So in addition to the Rohan house kits, I knew I'd have to source some sort of wall for the stone base. So, you know, I remember looking at like the Citadel wall kit or whatever, or would I build it myself? Could I build it out of foam and texture it or whatever? And I knew as well, inside, I was going to need loads of furniture. And so I went back to Tomarillion, which is now sadly defunct, but this was before they closed. It was the same place, as I said, I bought my furniture for Bag End for the Bill West birthday party. And I had loads of fun shopping for all sorts of cool Beorn things. I think I ended up spending about 120 quid on furniture, and that box arrived in January 2022. So my delivery of Beorn's bits, it was January 2022, which now as we're recording this is of course nearly 4 years ago. And you may remember me last year on my Throne of Skulls blog going through my big box of Tomarillion furniture that I'd had for 4 years for Bilbo's birthday party. And at that time, while I was going through that, I kept back a secret box. I kept back my Beorn box. I did nick a few bits and put them into Bilbo's party, where I was like, oh, well, we might need some more tables. So sorry, Beorn, you can have these tables, Bilbo. And maybe a few of these stools, they're going. But there was a whole bunch of stuff that was always bought for Beorn's house and was never going to be in Bilbo's house. And so what I thought I'd do is now I would show you those bits that you haven't seen before to give you some idea of what might have been going into Beorn's house. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so let's get stuck in and see what we had. So a lot of you long-timers will remember this from last year. This is my Bilbo's birthday box that we ransacked. So if we have a look inside here, a lot of this stuff you should recognise. We've got some old treasure chests that were painted up to go onto the Dale and Erebor project but never got used. We've also here got some old things. That's an old thing from I've had for 30 years from somewhere. There was like this sideboard that didn't get used. Everything in here you may well have seen before. One of the market stalls that I didn't use last year. There's another one of those in here somewhere. This one got further along being painted. You can see that sort of stuff. Some sacks that didn't get anywhere near being painted. Some sacks that got quite close to being painted. Those market stall pieces that were nearly on the Bilbo's birthday board. Some crates, stools, a couple of spare tables with the food already on them. I think I've got 3 of these, that sort of stuff. The final beer barrel or wine barrel that was again half painted up last year and just didn't fit on the board. A few spare benches and a few other bits and bobs. So this sort of stuff here, you've seen this. This has all been this was all bought mainly for Bilbo's birthday party, and then some of it was used and some of it wasn't. But obviously there were plans. Some of this stuff would have been bought for Beorn's house. Like the reason I got so many sacks or so many crates is because some of these were originally bought for Beorn's house, and then even last year when I was thinking this isn't going to happen, I opened them up to be stolen for the birthday party. So that's the stuff you've seen before, which is fair enough. But in addition to that, I also got this other set of stuff which you haven't seen before, and I'm going to show you that now. So this is the additional Beorn's house set of goodies that I picked up. So everything in here was originally planned to be used in Beorn's house. So let's see what we got. We have a well, which is kind of cool. We've also got this, which I don't really know. I can't remember this, and because Tom Rillian's gone bosh, you can't access the website anymore. I think this was actually a roof for the well. I've got a couple of resin supports, and I think this was possibly meant to stand on top of it to cover it and stop, like rain getting in or dragons getting in or whatever. So we've got those kind of bits. I've got a few bookshelves, I think. He's got bookshelves in the in his house, so I'll kind of put these things in. These kind of nice ornamental bookshelves, which I picked up. And then I got loads of these animal statues. There's loads of wood carving in Beorn's house. So Tom Rillian had these things that were called kind of, I think they were often called things like the Beast or whatever. And I didn't really care what they were, but I just picked up wherever I could these little kind of wood carvings, which I thought would be great on either side of the door or something. And we've got some metal ones here, I think. What are they? Is that a human face in there? Something like that. These are just kind of carvings and that sort of stuff. These guys, which I just thought would be fun to kind of put around the walls. I got this big throne. I thought that was going to be for Beorn. He's got this big wooden chair, so I picked up this single one so that Beorn would have a kind of big chair at the head of the table. I bought these resin chairs, which I thought looked a little more like the chairs of men, as opposed to the smaller wooden ones that I've been getting for the Hobbit party. Here we've got some, I think these are large candles. These are kind of wall-mounted candles. I think that's meant to be kind of wax coming over the top. This was intended to be the back door. In the middle of the house there's a big kind of wooden back door, and I thought this would be quite a good thing for that. I also got some wheels. There's going to be an outside section to the house, so I was going to lean a couple of wheels against it for a cart. I think that's a big saw, like an outside saw. Some carved animals, kind of birds. Another one of those things like that, and a water pump that I think maybe was going to go next to the well or something. You wouldn't put, would you? You probably wouldn't put a water pump next to the well, would you? They're different things. So that stuff was all picked up specifically for Beorn's house, and I've still got it. I've obviously still got it all because I haven't done anything with it. There were some of the bits that are on Bilbo's birthday party were in here as well. So a few of the extra tables, a few of the extra kind of pots and that kind of stuff has already been taken. But this whole set of scenery bits was basically bought for this Beornings project, and as of right now doesn't have a home. But it wasn't just this stuff, because I also got something else. So this is the other element I got here. I got for Beorn's house, and what we have here are walls. These are much more fragile. I think these are plaster of Paris rather than being resin or plastic. But you can see they're wooden walls, and I got two lengths. I got those ones, and then these longer ones. And then what you also got as part of them were these columns, which you basically used to join them. The idea is you do something like that and you make them. Now I bought these to go underneath the walls of Beorn's house, because if you look at the kind of picture of it, it's actually that traditional model of kind of having a stone base and then a raised up wooden walls. So the idea was, I've got loads of these, as you can see. If you go through here, you can sort of see how many sets of these kind of things I've got. You can see how some of them have broken already and being stored for 4 years. And I've got in here, I've got loads of columns and loads of the small ones. And the idea was I was going to have this stone base all the way around Beorn's house before I put the kind of Rohan house walls on top of it. So yeah, as well as all the Rohan scenery, I also bought all this stuff to be a kind of base. But alas, it hasn't happened, and so it didn't get done. But yeah, so that is everything I picked up to be in Beorn's house, and we can now go back to the chair and start to chat about what's next. So there we go. By January 2022, I'd acquired everything I needed to build Beorn's house, ready to take an army of Thorin's company and Beorn to Throne of Skulls. And then everything changed. After a teaser at Ardacon 2021, Defence of the North was revealed. So it was right at the end of the presentation at Ardacon. They previewed Fall of the Necromancer being the next supplement, and then like the last slide they said, and the supplement after that is Defence Against the North. So this is like August 2021, and we were all Defence Against the North. That's cool. And then the next thing we heard was at what I presume was Throne of Skulls 2021. They did a seminar there, and they previewed Defence of the North, and they said it's coming out next. And the last slide of that presentation said, "We'd love to tell you more, but that's all for now. You'll have to bear with us." And I remember everyone being very, very excited that we all assumed that meant Beornings were coming. It was a super cool little teaser, and everyone was very, very happy. So suddenly, around the same time that I'm planning this board, you start to get these rumblings of, well, maybe Beornings are coming. And by May 2022, we had confirmation of the Beornings. They were revealed at Warhammer Fest 2022, which I think was online. And suddenly, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. I like Beornings. I like Beorn. An army of these. This is cool. I've already taken Thorin's company to Throne of Skulls. The Beornings are the correct answer for this, and they could still be in his house." And I think I came up with the idea that it was going to be like Yule at Beorning's house, and he basically invited all his mates over for a party. And I was like, same board, exactly the same board, but I'll fill it with Beornings. And the great thing was, as we went through this army list in Defence Against the North, the army list was Beorn 200 points, Grim Beorn 200 points, Beorning 20 points. And so the army list was really, really easy. It was Beorn, Grim Beorn, and 30 Beornings. And that was exactly 1,000 points. And not only that, the fact that Beorn and Grim Beorn were both heroes of valour made it perfect. The warbands were full. It was literally the kind of perfect 1,000-point army. And so surely it was meant to be. So I also thought, in this kind of vein of where I try and do things that are a little bit different, I figured that in May 2022... I figured people were unlikely to have put together 1,000-point army by November 2022, effectively. You know, so in those first 5 months, I thought people might get Beorn and a couple of Beornings, but I didn't necessarily think people would have done 30. And so I thought it was going to be the kind of cool sort of thing that no one would have seen. And of course, the fancy dress wrote itself, right? I'd dress up as a bear. That's surely pretty easy. And I'd stick kind of, I'd stick it still on Beorn's house, which I already had all the stuff for. And so I got stuck in. And so the Beorns get released in June. I was like, brilliant. July, August, September, October, November. I got 5 months to kind of build 30 Beornings. And I got stuck in, and I bought 15. But even then, the reason I didn't buy the full 30 was in a very Throne of Skulls style. I wanted to do loads and loads of conversions. And so I started digging around on other parts of the website and in my own collection to find other models that I could turn into Beornings to try and make 30 genuinely unique Beornings. I know the Beorning kit's really cool and you can get a lot of posability out of it, but I thought we could try and do some really different things. So I picked up the 3 Dunlending hero kit. Was that the Oathmaker, Frida and Gorolf. I picked up Hilda and Percy, and I also kind of remember digging out my Bard with the Windlance because I thought his kind of big Beorning-esque coat would be cool. And so that was then another 6 models, and so I figured I'd find another 9 models to be the other 9 from somewhere else, and if I needed more Beornings to fill those 9, I'd just pick up another 3 packs and it'd be cool. And I was actually genuinely quite excited about what the next few months might bring in terms of converting and all that. And then something terribly unforeseeable started to happen. Turned out people didn't like the Beornings. So having a look at this now in Defence Against the North, just to remind myself, what do we have? Whenever a bear model suffers a wound, you roll dice on a 5+, it's ignored as if a point of fate has been spent. Both the bears get monstrous charge. Friendly models, all of them get resistant to magic, and Beorn and Grim Beorn can transform between bear form and man form at will. And the Beornings themselves were Fight 5, Strength 4, Defense 4, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, Courage 5, Burly, and our counters in range of a banner when they're near a bear, and they could also have great bows. So they were really good, and I'm sure people who are playing the game will remember this. They got a reputation as being really, really good. I seem to remember particularly at low points. And they were instantly one of the armies from this that people started going, oh, they're OP, they're busted, oh, it's a, no one likes playing against them. They were a very, very competitive choice. They went to, I feel like Ardacon, there was a lot of Beornings. They were, and lots of people going, they have to be kind of FAQ'd. And what's strange about that is at Throne of Skulls, you have to take an army that your opponent's going to enjoy. And I don't just mean if you want to win, but it's like the point of the event is for people to enjoy their games against you. Like if you go super hardcore to Throne of Skulls and smash everyone, you won't win the event. You literally achieve nothing. If you take the best list in the game, I don't know, what's really good now? Army of the White Hand. You take that to Throne of Skulls in 2025. You might win 5 games, but you're finished in the middle of the table because everyone will be like, that army, I didn't enjoy that at all. You've just taken a meta pick. And so if you're, I don't get any appeal to taking a competitive army to Throne of Skulls. Does that make sense? Because you won't win, and so there's no benefit to taking it, and you'll just annoy some people. I literally don't get it. And so I was starting to think, hang on, however I play with these, I don't think people are going to enjoy it, which means you won't get the favourite game votes, which means however much you're dressed like a bear, people aren't going to enjoy their games. It's not going to be right for Throne of Skulls. And it dawned on me that maybe Beornings weren't a Throne of Skulls army in that year. They just weren't that kind. They were too good, effectively. However you themed it up, however you did the board, they were just slightly too good. And so I decided not to take them. I figured I'd let the kind of meta flatten out. Perhaps, they weren't that bad, and the kind of zeitgeist feeling would change. Perhaps they'd be nerfed by an FAQ, and perhaps it was just hysteria and it died down, and I would take them in a future year. Famous last words. And so, Erebor and Dale was brought back for 2022 instead. Then my Riders of Aemma were brought in for 2023, and Bilbo's birthday party was finally brought in for 2024. And the Beornings waited and waited and waited. And here we are, going into Throne of Skulls 2025 season with a new edition, with newly rebalanced army lists. So we have our Beornings army list. What do we now have? So now the wound is ignored on a 6. We still get resistance to magic. The bears get monsters charged because I think they get it anyway. There's a courage test thing which is different. They're still 20 points. I don't know. It's weird to think they're not that much. I've genuinely not even considered this. I didn't bother to look into it. But my overall feeling is that they're not as good as they used to be. There's obviously the drop from 5+ to 6+. What was the other rule that they used to have that they dropped? Let's have a look. I just read it out 5 minutes ago. They don't have to roll for their skin change. Oh, that's why. That's in it. Yes, they seem to have the same rules they used to, I think, for the most part. It's just that they get the 6+ fate instead of a 5+ fate. The Beornings are still fight 5, still strength 4. They still seem to be the same stat lines. They still get the banner. So they're very, very similar. But my overall feeling is they're not quite as dominant as they used to be, and maybe that change from 5+ to 6+ fate was enough to do them. And it could also be that other changes in the wider rules have slightly changed their where they are in the pecking order. But so yeah, they're finally potentially ready to take. So is it their time? No. So yeah, as it turns out, they're not coming to Throne of Skulls. I'd basically decided, bear in mind that this came out in, this came out in May that we saw their rules, and I actually decided my Throne of Skulls 2025 project very early on, like back in December. As soon as the books came out, I knew it was going to be, it's no surprise at this point, or spoilers to say it's going to be War of the Rohirrim related, but I decided that already. And so when this came out, it was like, cool. And I was like, oh, the Beornings look cool. And I do love the Beornings. I've got this is my little box that you can see how far they got. They're not in their blisters. They did all get kind of brought out. And I love the Beornings. I actually think I'm pretty not anti's the word, but I don't tend to like the GW invented stuff. And I know Beornings are mentioned in the book, but what I mean is stuff that GW visualises that isn't shown in the films, even if it's mentioned in the book. So I don't tend to like the Watchers of Kana and the Merchant Guard of Abragan and the Warriors of Khan Doom and that kind of stuff. I like to tend to use things that are seen in the films. But the Beornings are probably my favourite thing Games Workshop have ever done in terms of models and in terms of coolness that isn't shown in the films. And that's primarily because of how much I love Beorn. So I'm super, super, super keen on them. But still no. And the problem is, the reason I can't decide to make this video now and not just kind of punt them down to next year again is that I've started strip mining the Beornings project for my Throne of Skulls 2025 project. So when I came up with it in 2024, I realised I was going to need a lot of stuff for it. So this can kind of get your rumour engine going as we're about to start the Throne of Skulls vlogs, but I'm going to be using a lot of this for Throne of Skulls 2024. All these Rohan houses that have been kind of waiting their turn to be Beorn's house, they're going to get turned into a display board for Throne of Skulls 2025. It's quite exciting. So we're kind of cutting his house down. And then also the Dunlending hero models I got and the Bard model that I picked out, they're going to be used for this year's project as well. They're going to be used for Throne of Skulls 2025. Last year, Bilbo nicked some of Beorn's furniture for his birthday party, and this year I'm gonna nick a bit more. I'm gonna be nicking a bit more of it. So his house is kind of running out of stuff. There's still a lot of the very specific stuff is still there. The things like the animal carvings and all that. That feels very Beorn's house. So I've still got all that. But things like I think the well might be on my board this year, and the water pump and stuff like that. Some more of the tables. And then not only that, but my beautiful Beorning box that's been waiting with these 15 Beornings, I've started to ship them off. I still want them. I love them so much. I still do want to do Grim Beorn and Beornings at some point. But I've started to send off a few. Jamie Wiggins got a couple of mine, and Tom Thorpe over at Mithril got one. He's turned it into a video actually. So that was Beefer Beorning. So that was cool seeing him live his best life over on Tom's channel. So yeah, even the dudes have started to go. So by the end of this year, Beorn won't have a house, he won't have a lot of his furniture, and he won't have many friends. And I kind of fear his chances of a Throne of Skulls appearance have ultimately all been extinguished. So there we go. That's kind of the storied history of my Throne of Skulls Beornings project, which didn't happen. We need to end on a kind of optimistic note and say I will never say never. I truly, truly love the Beorning models. I still love Beorn. I love the Grim Beorn model. I think they're super cool, and they are a hobby that I want to do. So if they have a happy place in the meta now, the bear fancy dress also seems very, very simple and cool, doesn't it? I'm not ruling it out, but as of yet, I've got no impulse to kind of make that Beorning house now, and I won't have a lot of the the house, the Rohan house kits done for it, and so I'm just not. I also the plans for the walls, I showed you those kind of plaster walls. A lot of those will go this year, I think, and so I just won't have the stuff, and I don't really feel motivated to go back to it. So who knows? But I think the chances of Beorn and Beorn's house ever getting to Throne of Skulls, I'm going to say, are now done, and I'm closing the lid on this project. And what's cool about that for me is that I now do not have a Throne of Skulls backlog. For the first time since December 2019, I think, I don't have another project in the cupboard. Remember that old clip I showed you? So I've got stuff for 2 projects in the cupboard for one day. I don't have that anymore. There'll be a bunch of bits left over that will just go back into the bits bog for future projects. But I don't have a Throne of Skulls project. And as I start doing this, in Throne of Skulls 2025 season, I don't know what my project is going to be for Throne Skulls 2026, and I actually find that really quite freeing. It's another bit of backlog clearing. It's like, okay, that's done, and we can concentrate on this year and then try and figure out what's next. So yeah, I benched Dale and Erebor, Bilbo's birthday party, and Beornings over the year, and I managed to go back to 2 of them, and the third one, I need to say a very, thank you to Beorn for inspiring me for a few years, but it's a project that isn't going to happen, I think. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you see the point of doing this project, and I hope that as the vlogs now start rolling for Throne of Skulls season 2025, there are currently 7 planned, and it might be more, to get you through the whole Throne of Skulls project this year. As they start coming through, I hope you might just have a little smile as like, oh, that was meant to be at Beorn's house, or he was meant to be a Beorning, or something like that. I think that could be a kind of cool thing to follow, and just give those little projects a nod as we as this roof piece that was cut out 4 years ago to be in Beorn's house ends up being somewhere else in Middle Earth. I think that's kind of cool, the way these things kind of pass on. But yeah, so to the future, that's what's coming next. We've got a whole world of fun coming for you in Throne of Skulls. I've got a really cool project I'm really excited about, and the next vlog you see will be the road to Throne of Skulls 1, and we'll be launching us off down that campaign. I know people look forward to this part of the year on this channel the most, and I do as well. We've got loads of stuff to document, some really cool hobby, and I have no doubt I will be super stressed by the end of it. But hopefully we can do another really cool project, and I hope you enjoy coming with me. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you are enjoying the work we're doing here on Battle Streams Middle Earth, please hit that subscribe button and drop a comment down below. Let me know, am I crazy? Should I plough on with this project somehow? Would the Beornings project be cool? What else could I have done on it? Is it madness? Do they fit into Throne of Skulls now? Let me know your thoughts on that. Or is it a stupid idea I never should have done, and everything that's come after it, which is Dale and Erebor, Rise of Aemma, Bilbo's birthday party, and this year was a good idea and was better than the Beornings? Let me know what you think, or just let me know what you thought about the video in general. I do really appreciate comments, and I try and reply to every single one of them. If you do like what we're doing here, there's a link to our Patreon down below where you can join the coolest community of BSIME nerds in all the world. And I want to thank each and every one of those patrons who genuinely do help to keep this channel going and help me to keep these projects going and these hobby vlogs going. You guys are the absolute best, and if you want to join that community, the link is down below. That'd be super awesome. But that's all for now. As of right now, I need to jump into some Throne of Skulls 2025 content that is going to happen, and I'll see you very soon in the next hobby vlog or on our next live stream here on Battle Streams in Middle Earth.
Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba.